Welcome to episode 89 of the Whatnauts review show, where every week we pick a story and we talk about it. This could be a movie, TV show, anime, manga, comic book, audio drama, all kinds of entertainment. We watch it, read it, listen to it, and then we come back here and we discuss it. My name is Melissa Wilkinson, and I am joined as always by Kyle Springer.
Hello, it's me.
Hello, Kyle.
I'm living in the future. It's 2020 now. I am officially a cyberpunk.
This is the year when all of us become a cyberpunk. Welcome
Right?
to the punkening.
Yeah, exactly. How are you? How did the holidays treat you?
They were fine. I got a food processor
Ooh.
and a Lego kit. So
See?
just living on
You can-
opposite ends of the adult-child spectrum.
You can process data now as a cyberpunk. You can even process food.
As a kitchen punk.
Sure.
That's my aesthetic.
Is that an actual thing? Like,
oh, I don't know.
kitchen punk?
Probably. I think if you put punk at the end of anything, it's real.
Are
Like you
all
speak
chefs
it into being.
kitchen punks?
Kitchen punks.
It's great. That's good. So you got some more stuff for your kitchen. You got some Lego stuff as well.
Yeah.
What kind of Legos?
I don't think I have played with Legos on my own, not like playing with like a niece or nephew or like little kid cousin. I don't think I've played with them on my own since I was 9 years old. But out of nowhere, my older brother's like, oh, I thought you might like this. And it is a Lego kit of Tony Stark's Iron Man lab
Okay.
with all the different Iron Man suits and like the little
That's cool.
containers. It is cool. I do like it. I haven't
Yeah.
put it together yet because it's the sort of thing that I know will take me like 4 hours solid to do.
That's good. Like Saturday when you don't have anything else to do, just put on a TV show or like a good movie trilogy or something and just sit down with the Legos. And build all
Yeah,
that stuff.
it'll keep me from getting stir crazy if I get snowed in.
Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How about
Exactly.
yourself?
I went out to Cody, Wyoming to visit family. This is the very same Cody, Wyoming where my parents met Kanye West, which is kind of amazing because there is no one there. Like,
It's you, your parents, and a series of tumbleweeds.
yeah, and then Kanye West. I did not get to meet Kanye. I don't think he was there, but I got to see the buildings that he was going to be doing all his shenanigans in. So that's a thing.
Yeah.
We watched lots of Star Wars stuff. My mom, I think, got Star Wars fever.
Ooh.
She really liked Solo. I think that one was her favorite. So,
Oh, nice. Good for
it was
mom.
good. It was fun. It was fun, though. But we are not here to talk about Star Wars or Legos. What are we here for, Melissa? It's a mystery to me.
I wish this franchise did have a Lego set to go with it.
You know, it probably does somewhere.
Like, even if there's not an official one, somebody out there has made a Lego 221B Baker Street, because we are covering today the entire series of the BBC Sherlock, starring Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman.
I just Googled Sherlock Legos, and I see some stuff in like images and stuff like that. I see a bunch of stuff for like Legos ideas where you can submit your stuff like that. And yeah, they have 221B Baker Street, Sherlock's flat,
Yes.
stuff like that. So there you go. It's out there. People want it. The people demand it. Sherlock.
Yes.
We picked this one, or I picked this one because I own like 3/4 of the show
Ooh.
on good old fashioned DVD.
Classic.
Yeah, my parents got a couple of them for me. I think I bought myself one of them back in like 2014 or something when I first found this show. I was like, oh, this is good. I like this show. I'm gonna start buying it because I now have. I was about to say dependable income, but that's debatable.
You have debatable income.
Right? Yeah, exactly. I had enough money to go out and buy things that I liked, so I picked up Sherlock, and I actually hadn't seen all of this. I had only seen those first 3 seasons.
Ooh.
And that was partly why I picked this of the things that you had pitched. I was like, I haven't seen it all. So here we are.
Wow. You were missing an important chunk of the story.
I was, yeah. I was. What's your history with the show?
I found this in college because Tumblr, which I imagine is the reason for most people. And I think when I started watching it, season 2 was just coming out. So I watched season 1 and 2 all at once. And then I was waiting for season 3. And then I didn't get to season 4 right away for some reason. I don't know what was up. I think I was like waiting for it to hit Netflix. Yeah, because like for the first 3 seasons, they are the only thing I've ever pirated because I needed to watch them that bad. And it was taking too long for them to come to America. And I'm sorry. But now I've watched them all legally on Netflix. That's what I want to do for the 4th season. So I waited for it to hit Netflix, and then I like lost track of time. So I didn't watch it till like a year after it aired. But I'd escaped being spoiled. I guess Tumblr mostly starting to die off by that point helped. I had less reason to go there and look at any spoilers.
Yeah, Yahoo
I wasn't finding any.
Bought them by that point, and things just started going downhill very fast. Thanks, Yahoo.
Yeah, this was big for me in college. I really loved this thing, and this was one of the things I remember the most. Like, it was like a high that I rode for several months. And then for it to come back for season 3, I also really loved. Because there's a wedding episode in season 3, and that was like right after my brother got married. So I have a big soft spot for that episode in particular. And I wanted to go back and watch this thing. And until like you brought this up in conversation several weeks ago, I had no idea you'd even seen this show. But it makes sense because you are a crime guy.
Yes. I am I wouldn't say aficionado, but I enjoy it. I like it a lot. I don't know. Well, I feel like I know more than most people just because I watch so much stuff. They're like, oh, there's a detective show. I'm gonna watch that one. But yeah, I don't consider myself an expert on all of that stuff. I'm a fan.
Yeah, you're just a crime enthusiast.
Exactly. Did your school have like crime watchers or something like that, where they like encourage the kids to like snitch and stuff like that? Be like, you can help stop crime at our school. Become a snitch. Sign up here. And I mean, that's not exactly what they said, but it was like, join the Crime Stoppers. And like, I don't know anyone that ever did that. Did you guys have that?
No, this is utterly foreign to me. We had crossing guards.
I was one of those. Back in elementary school. It was great.
After the whole year of guarding crosses, did you get to go to a local baseball game? Because I think that's what our kids got.
We got out of class early. That was it. Of just like, hey, if you're a safety guard, go do your thing. Prepare for everyone else. And I was like, all right, peace out. Leaving half an hour early. I can
and
go
so
sit
begins.
on a bus. Yeah.
So begins your interest in detectives. Crossing guard is like detective level 1.
Exactly. So I was gonna say, what did you think now that you've seen the last season, but you've already seen the last season? I guess that would only apply to me. I'm like shaking off rust here of like, how do we do said
we gotta
podcast?
get back in a rhythm.
Exactly. So what did you think?
I really liked watching all of this. for another time around because I watched season 4
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago.
Okay.
And I think it had been a while since I watched the previous seasons prior to that. I was just like, I'll pick it up. I remember everything that happened. So it'd been a while since I was like in Sherlock. And I watched all of these really quickly. Like season 3 and season 4, I both marathoned like one night each.
Yeah.
This is what I did for New Year's Eve. Like I just stayed in and I just watched all of series 3 of Sherlock. So I'm like, oh, that's a pretty good night.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to come up with anything better than this.
That's kind of what I did too.
And I'll say that the first time I saw season 4, like I liked it fine, but it felt kind of off to me. And I
Okay.
like it a lot better watching everything in such a short time span now. I think
Interesting.
season 4, like it works better on repeat viewings.
Okay. Because this is my first time, like I
Yeah.
mentioned, watching season 4. Yeah, I don't know if I liked season 4.
It takes big swings.
It does, and that's not to say that I didn't like it, but it just, I think compared to my memory of that show and then watching this for the first time, it was like, not what I expected, not really what I want from a Sherlock show.
And I figured out why it sits so weird. Besides, like, there is a very big plot thing that happens at the end of the season 4 premiere.
Mhm.
Outside of that, changing the game. The first episode of season 4 feels more like an action movie. Like, it's way more on, like, action and
Yes.
espionage and more like thriller stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's not bad, but it does not really feel like the previous episodes of Sherlock. It's like a whole different genre, kind of.
Mhm.
And it is kind of odd.
Yeah.
Oh, like not bad, just sort of a little jarring.
We'll get more into that once we
Yeah.
get into spoilers and stuff. But yeah, I still really enjoy this show. It's
Yes.
it's a delightful show. I think it's a crime show that's not super dark per se.
Yes.
It has its moments, but I think there is this dry wit to it that I don't think is really common in a lot of crime shows that just try and be dark and gritty and murder
Yeah.
and drugs and these are terrible people and stuff like that. And it's fun. It's
It
a fun
is fun.
thing to watch.
Even in its darkest hours, it is fun. And so I started trying to watch Elementary several years ago when that first came out, which is the CBS, I think, crime drama with Johnny Lee Miller as Sherlock Holmes and Lucy Liu as Dr. Joan Watson.
Mhm.
I started that and I liked them fine. I enjoyed their partnership, but there was too much of, now let's talk to the victim's family. And that burned me out real quick. I'm like, this is too, this is a bummer every week. Like, this isn't as fun. And the nice thing, in its own weird way, about BBC Sherlock and how kind of like cold and calculating he is that you never have those heart-to-hearts with the victim's family.
Yeah.
That stuff is all gone, which I think is actually perfect for me. So if you get bummed out on too much murder, this is like removed from it in a way that like the characters within the story are like, it's kind of like they look at Sherlock and he's kind of cold, but like for the viewer, it's like we're far enough away from like all the repercussions of these crimes that it feels more fun. It is easier to take.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see. Let's do kind of brief synopsis. I think
Yeah.
most people know the general idea of Sherlock Holmes, the
Yes.
platonic idea of Sherlock.
Yes.
And Dr. Watson.
Mhm.
But yeah, what's the kind of general synopsis of this version?
This is set in modern day London. And by modern day, I mean between the years of 2010 and 2016. So the
Yeah.
show's almost 10 years old now. It's an interesting piece of the past decade's history.
2016. So long ago.
Yeah.
The distant,
Yeah.
ancient past.
So it's set in modern times. There's texting. Holmes and Watson have a blog. They also don't call each other Holmes and Watson. It is Sherlock and John. It's modern.
Mhm.
It's casual. They're all on first name basis with each other. And John is he's an Afghanistan war veteran, and he was an army doctor. And he comes back to London, and he doesn't know what to do with himself. And he runs into Sherlock, who's like, I want a flat here in London. I want to feel the pulse of the city.
Yep.
I'm here to solve crimes. You're moving in with me. Like, he's just decided the whole thing. Then John just falls into this. Like, he doesn't think this is what he's looking for, but he realizes, I miss action. Like, I need some sort of a thrill in my life. I need a chase. And so he kind of also rides this crime-solving high with Sherlock, who it's supposed to be like a literal high replacement for because he has had drug problems.
Yep.
Like, he's even trying to quit smoking in one episode, and it is a big deal. He's trying to, crimes are everything, and he's also trying to make crimes as substitution for everything else that he thinks he might need to live with. And they just solve modern day crimes, and Sherlock's older brother, who works for the government, is there to keep an eye on them. They have a cute housekeeper, not their housekeeper. She's their landlord, and she just wanders in and out making tea, and she says, I'm not your housekeeper, guys, remember that. I'm not your housekeeper. Don't forget. Here's some cookies. And there's a local medical examiner who's great. Like, there's all these orbiting side characters that are on their side, in addition to the big villains. Like, you've heard of Moriarty, probably. He's like the Joker to Sherlock's Batman. And there's other really cool episodic or mini arc villains that pop up throughout the series.
Good stuff. And they do make a lot of references to the original works.
Yes.
The Sherlock Holmes books that were written way, way, way back in the day. So yeah, it's good. It's fun. It's enjoyable. I definitely recommend it. It's all on Netflix. They even have a couple kind of behind the scenes making of documentary.
I watched one of those
things. I skipped them.
I tried one. It's interesting enough.
Cool. I think that's about it. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping, and then we'll get into spoilers. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been podcasting here at the Whatnauts for 4 whole years. That's pretty crazy. We just recorded a 4-year anniversary retrospective celebration. So you guys should go check that out. I'm actually going to be editing it all tonight after we're done recording this, but it will be up on our website shortly before this goes live. So if you are watching this or listening to this on your podcasting platform of choice, it will already be up. Go check it out on our website, thewhatnauts.com. We have a bunch of brand new announcements that we make on that 4-year anniversary retrospective. So go check it out. And it's a lot of fun. We had some stuff to drink. It was me, it was Melissa, it was Ignacio, it was Mick. We had a lot of fun, a lot of cool things to go check out. That being said, if you like what we do, patreon.com/thewhatnauts is where you can support us for as little as $1 a month. You guys can get access to the live streams of this show, which we do on Twitch. On YouTube. We have exclusive content, and we also want to give a big shout out to our patrons at the $5 tier. So thank you, Sam, and thank you, Christine, for helping us out. Of course, thanks to all of our patrons, but special shout out to Sam and Christine.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, let's see if my spoiler alert thing will work. Yeah. There we go. We are officially in spoiler territory, ladies and gentlemen. Let's dive right in. And I think I kind of want to get the negative stuff out of the way.
Okay.
Because it's not much, but I think it's a pretty obvious negative thing, and is kind of why I'm like, I didn't really like that last season. I want Sherlock to be a detective.
Yeah.
I don't want him to be a super spy or an action hero.
Yeah.
I want him solving crimes in his hometown. And you don't see much of him being the super spy.
Mm-hmm.
But there are episodes where that's where he is, and then he needs to return to then solve a crime. And there's a couple episodes in season 3 and 4 where, like you said, it's more action oriented, and that's not what I want Sherlock doing.
Yeah, I didn't think
deduction.
Yeah.
Deduce things. Come on.
I didn't think about it like that, but it does make sense. I do kind of like that he has become such a prolific detective that his brother Mycroft and the rest of the British government look at him and they know that he is like a tool that when pressed, they may call on him to use him for certain things.
Mm-hmm.
I like that he's gained that much renown that he is like a government asset.
Right.
But yeah,
which
when
kind of
he
makes
does
sense,
these,
right?
when he does these international missions, like where he is, like after he fakes his death, or what he's going to do after he takes off on the plane at the end of season 3, or like all the stuff with Mary at the beginning of season 4. Like it's missing that London aspect to it.
Right.
And you're right. Like Sherlock loves London. Maybe not in a traditional way that like I love my hometown, but like he understands London. Like that is his home. Like he understands
calls it
how
his home turf at one point. He's like, we need to go back to London and have them do their thing there because that's my home turf. I know it.
Yeah, so like he is having a better time every time he's in London. So I think that stuff is more enjoyable. And I do like kind of that little loop that they can run where we can run into all the supporting characters. Like if we're out doing international espionage, Molly isn't going to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. Because and that's not to say that the mysteries and the crimes that they had from episode to episode weren't interesting. They were really good, but I felt like the ones that were more action oriented or weren't necessarily in his hometown were more of, well, I could see this in any show. Like this doesn't need to be Sherlock and Watson. It can just be any detective. Whereas something that is in 221B Baker Street and the whole thing takes place there or down the street at the cafe, and they're trying to think of how they can solve this thing of what is so uniquely London that like that's the key. Oh, a cab driver like the ones that they have there, and it's just like that's the stuff that I like. So
yeah, like the Agra stuff in the Six Thatchers, which is the first episode of series 4. Like it's good, but it does just sort of feel like an action thriller with the Sherlock characters in it. I love other stuff in that episode, like the beginning part of it, where they find that burned skeleton in the car, and it's like, this boy isn't even supposed to be here. And Sherlock figures out that he put on one of those like car seat costumes to jump out and surprise his dad for his birthday. And then he has a seizure and dies, and nobody found him for a week until a car crashed into his car sitting in his parents' driveway. Yeah. And that's when they find his burned corpse. Like that's something. Like I didn't remember series 4 very much. I think because I watched it all pretty close together. I think I was stressed about other stuff in life at that time. So
Finals,
it didn't.
Something like that.
Yeah. Well, it was out of college. I think it was like around the holidays and I had holiday stress or something. But like it didn't stick with me. But that did. That is such an interesting puzzle. And it's so emotionally haunting. Like, yeah, your son's corpse has just been sitting in your driveway for a week. And you had no idea. Like, it's so tragic, but in a really pleasing way, kind of. Like, that part of that episode is good. But then it gets, like, with the Agra stuff, again, like, there's nothing wrong with it. It just has a different feel than the other stuff around it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Even the final episode, where it's more of like the inmates have taken over the asylum, and Sherlock is now trapped inside this island somewhere on the planet, and it's like it's no longer logic puzzles. Really, it's more of emotional puzzles of like, well, do I kill this person or that person? I don't want to kill anyone, so what do I do? I have to pick. And it's just
I
like,
think
well, that's not
I think that
a
is
story.
It makes sense though, because that is what Eurus wants to test him on, because she's got a far greater logical mind than he does, but emotion she does not understand. And you come to see that what an emotional person Sherlock really is, and who he's become over these past couple years, and how he is more aware and he is more caring in more overt ways. And like, you just watch his relationship with Molly from, I'm just here to use your lab and I barely know you exist, and you're really here to just show me dead bodies that I can run experiments on, and like go get me coffee or something from the vending machine, to the end of the series where he's like, oh no, oh, I have to do everything possible to save Molly Hooper because I love her, but I don't really get that I love her, and I have to tell her that, and it feels weird, and I know she loves me back, kind of, but I don't want to make her say it because I know she doesn't want to say it. Like, it's so nuanced, and it's so, like, fragile of an experience for both of them. I agree that the final episode, the conflicts in it are very different than the conflicts we've seen in the preceding episodes, so it is odd. Like, I felt it was really odd the first time I watched it, but I like it better now because I can see that for as unusual as everything is, it does tie back to things. Like, watching the whole series compressed like this gave it a more unified feeling that I didn't have before.
I think my dad may have read me a Sherlock Holmes story way back in the day. I don't really have a familiarity with the books, so I don't know how much each book is like a sequel or a continuation of the last one. I know there's a couple that do tie in. Because I have a vague memory of one being like, oh, he actually did fake his death at one point. I could be completely wrong, but all that goes to say is like, I feel like books like that, whether it's Sherlock Holmes or Charlie Chan or whoever else, it's from mystery to mystery, you don't get very much character development in the detective or in the surrounding characters that you know. It's kind of like the sitcom thing where by the end of the episode, it all just gets reset back. Whereas this show does not. And I think that's why the end of this show, though maybe visually odd, it is emotionally exactly what you want. So that's why I think at least the finale works, because like you said, like, he's now having to kind of confront Molly and deal with these emotions that he's kind of tried to not do with. And you mentioned that the fact that you thought he was in love with her. I don't know if I agree with that.
Oh no, he's not in love with her, but he does love her, and
he has a love for her as a, like, hey, you're one of my best friends, and I actually do need you.
Yeah, and like, he feels like she is one of the people in his life who he has truly done wrong by.
Right.
And who he is really working on in all these various ways to try and make amends with, try and actively treat better.
Yeah. But just to see him do that, and then it happens, and they kind of get the rug pulled out from underneath them, and he starts destroying this coffin that's there, and that's like the first real emotional outbreak that we've seen Sherlock do. He's done them in his own ways, but they've always seemed very cold and impersonal.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first one I felt like he just let go.
Mm-hmm.
So
and even like
that was neat.
Other like emotional output from him, like there is so much true, sincere emotion in the wedding speech he gives for John and Mary, but it is something he has written out and rehearsed, and it is proper and it is well spoken, and this is how he chooses to display his feelings. That is raw. That is, you have gone out for one of the people in my life that I am the most protective of, who I know needs this protection from me because I owe her that, because I have really screwed things up in the past and I can't screw this up anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there you go. That's all the negative stuff that I want to say about the show. Besides
I will say,
I really like it.
I've been thinking, like, what is the culture's perspective on the show looking back at it a couple years after it's ended? Especially coming from like, oh, I learned about it from Tumblr, where it was huge.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how big it is in the general world. I don't know how many average people you talk to. I think most of them know what it was because, you know, especially Benedict Cumberbatch has become a more successful, like, actor who's in a lot of different things, and you know that this is the thing that made him big, so I think people recognize it by name. But I'm not sure like how many of the average person have watched this thing and what do they think about it.
It was also right on the start of when TV channels or streaming services really started to have like, this is our prestige show.
Yes.
I mean, The Walking Dead was already out. They had some stuff. They were one of the first ones. Netflix had their one or two things that were like, these are the things you need to watch. House of Cards, if you're not watching that, who are you? Right? Now, it's like, sorry you watched all of that with Kevin Spacey. Sorry, jeez. But Game of Thrones, I think, was in maybe season 2 or 3 around that time. So it was big and starting to get big. I don't remember exactly when it was. You guys will know.
I think Game of Thrones also came out in like 2010.
Yeah, it was
approximately
kind of
around there.
Around there. So it had already started picking up steam. But now you see so many other channels trying to do something like that, where it's like, we're going to have our normal programming that you know us for, but we're going to have one that's going to be our darling. Like, this is going to be the show that you need to get Showtime for. Why you need to watch FX. You know, here it is. So it was one of those shows, I think, of like, oh, you need to go watch Sherlock. But again, it was at the start of that stuff where I don't think everyone had caught on to like, oh, there is stuff out there that's maybe even not on American television that you need to go watch.
Yeah, it is kind of on this cusp of being like a very big cult hit or a very small mainstream hit.
Yeah.
It occupies this kind of odd space, especially given the fact that its schedule is we do 3 hour-and-a-half-long episodes every 2 years. It is a strange schedule. And
it was a nightmare of a wait. It was like...
Oh, it was. Yes.
Because I think I caught up shortly after... or maybe right when season 2 hit Netflix. And which is the one at the end of season 2, Sherlock kills himself. And it's like, wait, but wait, he's alive at the end? How? Yeah. What's going on? I have to wait 2 years for this?
Right. I lived that. Yes, I was in college and I didn't figure, like, I must have been... Maybe I was a junior. I don't know. And I didn't find out how he did it till 2 years later when I am now out of college and I have a job.
Yep.
I have a career. I'm a career woman, and now I learn what happens to Sherlock.
Yeah. Yeah. It was wild. And then I remember watching season 3 and just being so excited. Like, I can finally figure out how he did this. And on top of the 2-year wait, it was also like never a sure thing that they were doing more until sometime after. Like, I remember season 2 ended and it was like, well, they haven't renewed it yet. This could be it, guys.
Or like they were just being real cagey about it and like not telling you, oh yeah, there is another season, until they'd already like had the whole thing written and like knew exactly when it was being released.
Yeah. Written and at least approved of like, okay, you guys have good ideas for this next one. Let's go with those.
Yeah, it's not like a monkey did it or something like that.
Well, you never know.
I'd say that the drawbacks to Sherlock, like what I've been thinking about is like, for the people I know that have watched it, why it might not be liked is the show is very clever and it knows how clever it is. And sometimes it feels a little pretentious. It's like, yes, we know, we get it. Like, that's a secret keyword in Latin. They all know Latin. Okay, we've got it.
Yeah.
And the stuff between John and Sherlock, where John's like, he's not my boyfriend. I'm not gay. I got everyone. Hello. I am not gay. Please stop presuming this. Everybody's doing this.
Here we are in 2020. If I'm not mistaken, there was something. What is it? A show that Stephen Moffat is. I don't know how to say his last name.
Moffat?
That he's doing now, and something similar happened. I saw it on Twitter, just something of like, oh, here's a character that they're like subtext is there that maybe they're bisexual, but he like refuses to actually say that they're bisexual, and it's just like, all right, dude, like.
Yeah, I have no idea.
You've been teasing us with this stuff nonstop in all of your shows. Why are you so scared just of gay people?
I really like the relationship between John and Sherlock, and I like those nuances, and I like that they have this weird gray area that is beyond a friendship and isn't quite a couple, but they are definitely a pair. They are loosely partners of some kind in some like deep emotional platonic way.
They always say like business partners. You have to. It's kind of like a marriage. Like you have that stuff, right? So there is that, but then they're also just good friends on top of that. So
I think
they're just guys being pals.
I think the thing of just saying like, please don't assume that he is not my boyfriend was like a joke that was like popular around this time. Like that was a thing that shows were doing. And I think that joke has just, it's not making fun of anything. Like the only person that's making fun of is John, just like, oh, here we go again. Okay, I got to keep finding out ways to say this over and over again. Why does this keep happening to me? Like it's, the only joke is on John and his like frustration at, all right, here we go again. And I think that just that as a form of joke has just sort of aged over the past handful of years. We're not getting anything out of it. And it is looking back like a handful of instances. I think on the whole, I do still like their relationship quite a lot. I'd like more times where they do stop and talk about themselves, where they are a little bit more open, where John like does seriously ask, why do people think we're a couple? Should we be behaving any different? Do I want to behave any different around you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's good, though.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. Did you have a favorite episode? That's what I want to know.
Ugh. I love the Reichenbach Fall. I love all of Series 3. Like I said, I think the wedding episode is one of the strongest ones.
It's a really good one, yeah.
I love how much that goes back and forth in time. Mm-hmm. Like that has like so many nesting flashbacks in on itself. And like, I know how it goes because I've seen it enough times, but I watched some of this series with my roommate who'd never seen any of Sherlock before. She's a big Doctor Who fan. She likes Supernatural. She likes other fandom things that are kind of on the caliber of Sherlock, and she was familiar with it, and people have been telling her to watch it, but she hadn't watched it yet. So she sat down and gave it a try for the first time, and she was having a little trouble. Like, wait, when are we? How long has this flashback been going? Are we going back to the wedding speech? How long has the speech been going on for? I think on your first watch, it is a lot to take in, but like on repeat viewings, I don't know, just sort of mapping the whole thing out in your head is pretty fun.
Yeah. Once you kind of figure out what's going on with that one, it's a really good one. But it's the same thing that Sherlock does that you can see in like episode 1 or just throughout the show where he's like looking at stuff and all the text is coming up to show you what he's noticing. Like it does that in a very different way in that one. And I think because that was the thing of like, all right, if that's your conceit, if that's the whole way you're gonna help us plebes figure out what Sherlock is thinking, that's great, but that can get annoying really fast. Like that's your one gimmick of okay, there's text popping up on screen to explain what is happening there. But it's kind of reversed in that one where he's like, all right, it's someone in this room is the victim.
Yes.
But everyone's alive.
Someone is going to be a victim.
Yes. Who is going to be the victim? And I think that was a good way to kind of flip that gimmick on its head and be like, let's do it a little bit differently this time. It was fun.
You know what else I realized about that episode watching it now? The victim to be in that episode, that army general, that's the doctor from The Terror. Remember we were watching The Terror and I'm like, I feel like I've seen this guy before.
Yeah, you're right. Interesting.
Like, oh, it's him. It was the guy who set himself on fire.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and then he had burns on his face in this one.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Exactly.
Same
right?
person. My mind just exploded. Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. I think my favorite is the like special one, the one where they did the time period piece back in the day. Like, this is original Sherlock and Dr. Watson in the 1800s.
That was a fun one.
That one was fantastic. I think what stood out to me is that yes, they instead of making it a modern day episode, this I think was that officially their Christmas special?
I think the way that BBC does things is that some of their shows will have a big special episode on Christmas. And I think all of them are at least slightly Christmas themed. Like, I think over
that
the
one
span
took place
of time
during the holiday, or like that's when in modern day times. That's
it is Christmas. It is like just after the holidays in modern times, and I think across the time that is spanned within the Victorian story, I think it does pass through Christmas.
Okay.
So it's not overtly a holiday episode.
Anyways.
Just a little bit. Just enough so that the BBC can air it on Christmas.
So I hadn't seen that one because that was not included in the DVD that I had, which I think came out shortly after they all originally aired. And so it was the like year or so later on when they released like, hey, here's a special one to hold you over until season 4. But what I really liked about that one is that, yes, they, instead of making it a modern day one, they're like, you know what? We're going to take this opportunity to make it a period piece. We're going to set this back in the time period that the original Sherlock Holmes books were written in. And when we're going to do it that way, but at the same time, it's not. It's taking place in modern day times, and it's all in Sherlock's mind palace.
I dug that a lot.
Yeah, it's like the first hint you have at that I think is it's not the like did you miss me thing that Moriarty was like, wait, he died and he's coming back and who knows what's happening here, but it was along those lines of, wait a minute, that happened in the modern day times in an episode that I saw in season 3, and it seems like something like that happened in this continuity as well. So does that, interesting. So is this just an alternate reality? No, I don't know. And it was this weird like parallel mirror of just like this funhouse mirror. It's like, okay, so we're still developing the characters, even though it's this like one shot episode. I really like that.
Because I was expecting this to be a one-shot, out of continuity, entirely like 90-minute period piece story. And instead, it's wrapped up in like Sherlock, he's in his mind palace and he's on all these drugs and part of it is like visualizations he's giving himself purposefully as a mental tool, and part of it is hallucinations. And it's kind of fuzzy what is what, and he gets like, it's like Inception, like he's gone so many layers deep, he doesn't know how to pull himself back out. And at the end, like all of it is supposed to support the story that is overarching between series 3 and series 4.
Yeah. And then once you kind of figure it out that, oh, he's in his mind palace, then you kind of know that, it's like, oh, okay, so he is trying to figure things out in his own way. And it's just this like really cool metaphor for everything that is happening.
I think that is this show's greatest strength, is how much it puts metaphor to work, especially visual metaphor, because there are all these mind palaces and all of these visualizations that he does. And the show even like uses that against you, where it's showing you something and you're under the understanding that this is completely real, like Magnuson's mind palace. Like you see him going into it's talked about like he has a vault. He's this newspaper magnate and he has this vault of all of this information and all of these records. And he's got secrets on everybody important in the world. And we keep seeing him go down and look at things in this library and open books and watch videos. And then at the end, he's like, oh, there is no physical vault. That's all up here. That's all in my head. That's all a mind palace. And then you realize everything you've been seeing was a metaphor. Or like in the last episode where you find out everything with the girl on the plane is a metaphor. That's not a real cut. So there's a lot of this unreliable narrator and visualizations of things that are not real but are presented like they are real. Oh, like it kind of keeps you on your toes, but it never goes so far that it's like, I'm confused. What was that?
Yeah, I do. Side note, I do have to say that I did think something was very, very fishy with the airplane in the very last episode. I was like, this makes no sense. How is everyone passed out except one person? There's no way, unless someone else is on the plane and somehow made it happen. But it's like you can't poison them all unless it's a gas, and then the little girl would have it. I was like, all right.
You know those ringtones that were supposedly so high teachers couldn't hear them?
Yeah.
It's old like one of them, but it's a knockout gas.
Yeah.
Does not affect children.
Who knows? Yeah, I thought that was a really strong one. Did you have a favorite villain?
Oh, I don't like, a lot of them are really good. I think that the second to last episode, the lying detective, that's a great one. That one is like one of my other favorites, like upon rewatch. Like I love that it is this like,
it's a great mystery.
It's this darling. It's this guy who's like kind of this big pop culture personality, like, kind of a jack of all trades, like show host, kind of just personality
Mhm.
sort of guy, show business guy. And he's like beloved by England. He's on everything. He's very, very charitable and sincere, and he loves people. And he's, there's a whole wing of a hospital that he's sponsored. And then he's like, yeah, sometimes I just feel like killing somebody. Anyone.
Yeah.
And it's all about Sherlock trying to prove that this man with all of the resources and all of the people on his side in the whole country is a serial killer. And the guy just keeps flipping it on his head, and like he tricks Sherlock into like, oh yeah, I'm a serial killer, all right. Try my new brand of breakfast cereals, extra fortified with vitamins for kids. It's all been a publicity stunt, Sherlock. Me and him are in on it. And Sherlock's like, no, real killer, murderer here, look.
Yeah. That was a good one, but that was also one of the ones I felt it was like, this doesn't need to be Sherlock and Watson. Like, it can be anyone else. I was like, go back home. Go home.
They are home. That's maybe one of the most London stories.
Yeah. There's just something. Maybe this is like a personal connotation of Sherlock Holmes for me, but I feel like those stories are very claustrophobic, or they should be, in the sense that I don't want them to go out to like big fancy things. I want most of it to take place in their apartment or in the police station or at the crime scene. And he's figuring out in like those 3 locations. And it's this, he's like, he's on TV, he's traveling to a hospital, there's like famous people and all this stuff. And I'm just like, it doesn't feel like a Sherlock Holmes story.
So does something like Hound of the Baskerville, does that work more for you in terms of how it uses its settings?
That one did, I think, for a different reason though, because I know that is a famous Sherlock Holmes story.
Yeah, it does have that on its side.
This was a different twist on that. Like the 2 that I recognized by name was the Study in Pink, which is based off a Study in Scarlet, and then Hounds of Baskerville.
Yeah,
I'm sure there are more of them in. I feel like all of them are based off of Sherlock stories, but I could be wrong.
I think the big ones are those. I think A Scandal in Belgravia is also taken from something, and of course the Reichenbach Fall is straight out of Sherlock. If you've seen the second Robert Downey Jr. movie, that is also him and Moriarty fighting on a waterfall.
I don't remember if I saw the second one. I actually didn't like the first one of the Robert Downey Jr. ones, and I think I'm like the only person that doesn't like that film.
I like him. Oh.
So the thing with me is, and I don't know how accurate this was, when I first really started getting into comics, I did the kind of stereotypical things of like, what are the best graphic novels that I should read? And of course, Alan Moore's Watchmen comes up, and then it's like, oh yeah, Alan Moore is often considered like the best comic book author. Like, you should check out more of his stuff. So I was like, all right, well, I really like the movie V for Vendetta. I'll read that book. And then I really like that book. And then I read From Hell after that, which was fantastic. But I don't know if I understood it exactly. The art is very scratchy. It's kind of hard to parse out exactly what's happening. But it is also kind of a murder mystery. It's all about Jack the Ripper and the conspiracies around that. And I'm pretty sure the plot of that book is the same that's in the plot of that first Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes
like Mark
movie.
Strong
like,
is in it, and there's like a secret underground organization, and
it was the thing where like the murders are on the maps make a pentagram thing, and I was just like, This is the plot to From Hell. This is a Sherlock Holmes story. Call it From Hell. What is this? I feel ripped off. So that's why I didn't like that one, and I was like, I'm grumpy and not gonna go see the second one. So I did not. But yeah. Anyways. It's good. It's good. What was I gonna ask? We were talking about favorite villains.
Yes. Which one's yours?
I like the woman.
The woman.
I think she was fantastic.
What a legend.
Just that I think that's the interesting thing that, well, how do I explain this? I think a lot of people are very tired of seeing movies and or TV shows where the hero goes up against someone who is exactly like them.
Okay, yeah.
Right? Iron Man 1, he fights another person in an iron suit. Iron Man 2, he kind of fights someone in another iron suit, right?
How many more Robert Downey Jr. movies can we bring up tonight?
Right. But as much as I like the earlier episodes of Sherlock, episode 1 is that exact formula where he fights another high-functioning sociopath, right? Someone who, is smart and can come up with this way to trick people or get information out of them or deduce the right thing. Like, if I say these certain things, they'll pick the wrong pill. That way I'll get the pill every single time, the right one that will leave me alive. And
I cannot choose the wine in front of me.
And yeah, and the woman, she's not necessarily smart. She's just a normal person. I mean, she is smart. Don't get me wrong, but she's not a high-functioning sociopath.
Yeah,
right.
She's not a genius.
She's just a woman
very
who knows how powerful she is.
Yeah,
and that's enough of a match for Sherlock. And I'm like, that is great. I love this.
Yeah, she's just extremely capable at knowing who she is and what her strengths are, and identifying these weaknesses in other people. Like, she's very strategic about what she's doing. I do love that episode. I love that she reads on Sherlock immediately, like, sex isn't something you get. It's something you were like intrigued by, but also intimidated by. And nothing else that Sherlock is intrigued by also intimidates him. But this does. And so she's like, the thing I can do to put him so off his game, he's going to tumble and fall right into my plans. It's like, I'm just going to walk out naked, and then what is he going to do? Yeah. She's like, I know he's scared of me, but I also know he's going to look at me. And I have made the key code to my safe my measurements, and I know he will look at me close enough, and he's smart enough to
figure it out. Yeah.
He can see what my measurements are.
Yeah. No,
I like that twist.
So as a dominatrix, her whole thing is power dynamics.
Yes.
And she needs to figure out what her clients are like needing or wanting, and somehow exploit that, somehow take it away from them, so that she's the one that has the power. And that's what she does with Sherlock.
Yes.
Too, of I don't know if she even knew that he could deduce all of that stuff to an exact thing, besides of like, oh, you're seeing me naked, you can at least figure out my measurements, and you're smart enough to know it's like all of the that will be the code to my safe, which does X, Y, and Z, but like, I don't know if she knew that he bases a lot of his deductions on what people are wearing, of just like, this is the hair that I see on their clothes or the tan lines that I see based off what they're wearing or their style or how expensive their clothes are. And so in one way, it's her taking all of that away from him. You don't get to deduce anything about me, which we then see that one visual of he's like looking at her, and it's just question marks. It's like,
yeah,
there's nothing. There's nothing. You're wearing nothing. I can't do this. But at the same time, she is giving him exactly what he needs to figure everything out.
Yes.
That's just like genius. So good.
Like,
so smart.
Exactly. She knows all of his weaknesses and all of his strengths, so she's like, I will play him, but I also know he will get this out of me. Like, I know he's smart enough to do this. I really like their relationship and how she does keep, like, she's very sincerely fond of him, and he is of her, but he knows less what to do with it.
Yeah.
And I like that she just keeps texting him, and he reads them, doesn't respond except for like once a year.
Yeah. Yeah. She knows that she is in control the whole time.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about her character.
I went through my old Tumblr, all the posts I tagged under Sherlock, and I found a really interesting quote from Stephen Moffat, I think, that said, give me a second, let me bring this up.
Sure. I do not have a random Sherlock quote to pull up out of my head there, but
this is from Stephen Moffat, and it says, "It's always definitely a love story. What a weirdly sexualized world we live in where you insist they must be having sex as well. Why would they? John isn't wired that way, whatever Sherlock is. Sherlock Holmes is indifferent to sex. So is Irene. She uses sex to get what she wants. John Watson happily has a string of girlfriends. Sex is not really the issue among any of these people. Love is. Infatuation is. I think John Watson is infatuated with and fascinated by Sherlock Holmes. I think Sherlock Holmes absolutely relies completely and utterly on John Watson and is devoted to him. I think Sherlock is infatuated to the point that he can barely function around Irene Adler. And Irene Adler isn't initially fascinated by him and then falls for him completely. Thinks there's another person in the world as damaged as I am. How brilliant. Who says any of them are having sex with each other?" I like that. And that is how I've always read Sherlock, as asexual, but like romantically, who knows what he might be up to sometime in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Good stuff.
If the show was to come back with a 5th season, because I believe the way they ended it was, well, probably not, but you never know. It's like, we have not completely shut the door on there ever being any of this again, but it might not be for a while. What would you like to see out of another season of this show?
I want to see them do another thing like that time period piece.
Oh,
I kind of want them to do a series of those where it is them just doing period pieces, separate universes, just each one is its own standalone thing.
You just want Sherlock Holmes sliders where it's every different Sherlock AU that has ever
Sherlock
been.
in the 70s. Give me that. I would.
You want the one where he's a cowboy, the one where they're in space, the one where they meet in a coffee shop, the one where they're in high school and they're lab partners.
Yeah, that would be sweet. I mean, the high school one wouldn't work because they would have to cast different people, but like, right? Like, I want those same actors, those same dynamics, just in different time periods. Like, what does a medieval Sherlock and Dr. Watson look like?
Who?
That could be interesting.
You got a point. And there is something to... This show is definitely aware of Sherlock is this never-ending public domain property that just keeps looping forever in all of our consciousnesses.
Which is
I think
kind of
that's
how
also
the show ends too. It's just like
Yes.
they're always going to be out there in their chairs taking on your cases.
I think that's also part of like
run right at the end there.
I think that's also part of the joke of John always saying like, he's not my boyfriend. Like that's because that's in the public consciousness. We're all like, oh, those two are dating, right? Like as a general world, we're like Sherlock and Watson, boyfriends? And the show is commentating on, well, that is what everybody thinks, but no, not in this version or many other versions. And I think the joke just kind of doesn't hit that. But yeah, the ending of the show for sure. And kind of like all the bits about like the joke about the hat. Like I forget why in the narrative of the show somebody puts the hat on him. I think it's connected to something in the case. But then he gets known as...
They tried to go outside without being noticed.
I think that is it, yeah.
The paparazzi.
He just needs to grab a disguise.
Yeah.
And then he becomes Hat Detective. One of my favorite moments in the whole series is at the beginning of series 3 where Sherlock is back alive. He's back from faking his own death. There's a news report like on the BBC and the little chyron at the bottom says, Hat Detective alive.
Yeah, it's great.
Like it's very aware of everything that the Sherlock Holmes legend, franchise, Jungian myth has ever been. And that is how the show ends with, you have always done this, you will always do this. Like this is, the path always corrects back to you two running around solving crimes. Like you're this fixed point in universal truth. I think like an AU series, like that's such a wild idea. But I don't know, if it could work for anything, it could work for this.
Yeah. I mean, because that's the thing. They don't need to continue a story. Like, there is nothing... There was not a cliffhanger at the end of season 4 where it was like, oh, we need to... How did he fake his death? Oh, my God. We need to figure this out. It was just like, okay, this is good. We're done.
We've reached a state of peace. Like, they have reached a form of a status quo where we recognize that they are well. They're out there having adventures and they are well.
Which is like, I like shows that do that just once a year. We're going to do a certain like special episode.
Yeah.
Community did that for a while with their paintball episodes. It was great. And then I really want Riverdale to do that. We've started to get some shows that do like, we do the musical episode once a season. Riverdale does that one. But I would love to see Riverdale do something similar where it's just like each year there's one story where they just pick a different style and they go for it. One is Afterlife with Archie, and it's the zombie apocalypse, but it's all the Archie characters that you know from Riverdale. One is just like the classic look, like you give them like their old school outfits and all of that stuff, and it's like more like 50s style and stuff like that. And they kind of play on some of that stuff every now and then, but it's just like, just go all out, just do it.
And what's funny is that Sherlock
like Archie
Holmes
meets the Predator. Make that happen.
Please do. I need to see CW budget Predator.
Right.
What's funny is that Sherlock Holmes is one of those other styles that other shows will do. I remember there being so many cartoons when I was a kid that had like Sherlock Holmes, if not like references or gags, like there would be that type of an episode, Victorian or not. Like we all know Elementary, My Dear Watson, and The Hat, and 221B Baker Street, like Spectre Lestrade, like all of that is baked into our cultural consciousness from a very young age.
Yeah.
If there was another season...
I was going to say, and like... even into stuff like Inspector Gadget, which is literally just a knockoff Sherlock Holmes, except he has all the gadgets of Batman inside him. of like Batman and James Bond. Like, what if instead of having an Aston Martin that had all of these different things, what if all those different things were inside Sherlock Holmes?
I think my favorite variant on Sherlock Holmes, and this is a very loose one, is House.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was inspired by, we have this cold, calculating, absolute genius who has to save people's lives all the time, but doesn't get people's lives. And he has this long-suffering, more emotionally intelligent best friend that has to put up with him.
Yeah. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
Lots of stuff.
If
Oh, sorry.
No,
Go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say, like, what I would like to see out of another season is the part of the show is that Sherlock writes a blog, The Science of Deduction, and Watson also writes a blog that's just him telling the tales of him and Sherlock's adventures. And Sherlock has become, and I don't know how much this plays into other interpretations of the Sherlock Holmes, archetype throughout the years. Sherlock is like a local London celebrity in this version of the story. So I'd be interested to see, like, how does London morph around him as he keeps doing this over the years? Because if he's become so popular and him and, John are telling the stories of how they solved all these cases, is the average population of London getting more cunning? Are they also figuring out their own ways to deduce things? Are there copycats popping up?
Mm-hmm. I mean, we kind of saw some of that. Just in the fact that they are getting more clients.
Yeah.
We also know that time passes, like quite a bit amount of time from when they start to when this ends. I think is about in real time.
Pretty much, yeah.
Not exactly when each season happens, but from when it first started to when the show ended is about the same amount of time.
Yeah, I think altogether, probably.
Yeah. So it's quite a bit. We see some of that stuff, and I think we also get, though, these long periods of time where, Sherlock is dead. Oh, no, wait, he's super spy, international super spy, and all of this stuff. So I think just because he's around doesn't necessarily means that he lives or leads a very public life that interacts with the public. And so I still feel like he's just hat detective.
Hat detective. Oh, are like, they do mention that there are like gossip pieces in the newspapers, like about him and his life. Like,
and there's that fan club.
Yeah, there's the fan club. There's the he's dating the maid of honor from John and Mary's wedding, and he's really dating her because she is the personal assistant to this big crime guy he's trying to get to. And then once he like breaks it off with her, she like turns around and sells everything to the papers. These wild scandalous tales that she has made up. Like, you see one of the headlines is 7 times a night in Baker Street he made me wear the hat. And then she's talking to Sherlock and she's like, I wish we could have done it once for real.
Yeah.
He's like, what are you gonna do? The public is aware of the personal lives to some extent and the crime solving lives. And I'd like to see, however many years down the road, let's say it's like, 2025, they pull together another series of the show. That's probably almost a decade within the continuity of the show that John and Sherlock have been out there still continuing to solve crimes and blog about them. That's more knowledge getting out to the public. Like, what is the average person like? Who is approaching them? Like, how does the culture of London altogether warp around these two as this big, bright, cosmic star in the middle of the London universe?
Exactly. It'd be interesting to find out how it changed all of that stuff. I agree. I agree. Well, if you had to recommend stuff to people who liked this, what might you recommend?
I don't know. I've been thinking about this. What I love about the show is there are really neat little twists. I think it's witty. I think the cast of characters is the strongest feature of it. The relationships between them, the way they grow, the way they kind of recognize and start to overcome these flaws and like be more honest and supportive with each other. And like all the little side characters who just pop up now and again, like Bill Wiggins, who's just in like 3 episodes. I don't know. The only thing I can think of off the top of my head is, you know, the things I've been mentioned several times throughout this podcast, which are those Dresden Files novels I like.
Okay, yeah.
Which are about a private detective in, you know, contemporary Chicago who is a wizard. He is a wizard who works as a private detective, and nobody takes him seriously because magic's very hush-hush around there. But he's like, no, I am a wizard. Like, you lose your wedding ring, I got a spell. I can find it. Like, come to me. I need the money. And he gets embroiled in all of these deep conspiracies. Like, he dies and comes back to life for real at one point.
Yep.
And he has this, it is also tall, dark-haired, spooky man and short, feisty, more by-the-book blonde friend who has to put up with him. So it's him and this local policewoman that have this long, slow burn romance where they're constantly bickering with each other, but they're an absolutely great team. And then eventually they figure it out and they're like, we should kiss. That's what this has been missing. And it's got like so many really good side characters that pop in and out. I love any narrative with like, oh, it's that guy again.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that was a category on Netflix for their TV shows.
Whatever happened to ... and then it's like all of the
like not just for actors I haven't seen in a while, but it's like, do you like shows where there's like somebody who's in one episode and then 3 seasons later that guy comes back? Welcome to your new Netflix queue.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, we already mentioned Elementary.
Yeah.
That would be if you want more Sherlock Holmes versions, and then there's of course the Robert Downey Jr. movies. You guys can go do that stuff. If you guys want another British crime drama that is really good, maybe not as the main detective isn't as much of a genius, but it is more of a focus on like a single detective who's maybe a little more emotional. I would suggest Luther, starring Idris Elba.
Yes.
That's a great one. The other thing I want to recommend, if you're an anime fan, Detective Conan. It's a great...
I should have seen this coming.
Great series. And it's...
can I also recommend the Professor Layton games?
Yes, absolutely.
The only video games I have ever played.
There you go. Yeah, so go watch the Detective Conan anime because it is fantastic. Or go read the manga because it's out there too. Actually, I think I have volume 1 on my bookshelf back there. But Detective Conan is about this teenage detective who gets transformed into a kid, and he's like super genius smart, and he can figure out all of these mysteries and solve them, but because he's a kid, no one takes him seriously. And so when he has to solve a mystery, he has this watch that can shoot this like sleeping dart into his father or his uncle, I'm not sure who, but it like knocks him out, and he's like sitting down there, and then he has a voice modulator to make it seem like his uncle is talking to be like, I really know who solved this murder. It was this guy. But it's the type of mystery where you can't really solve it yourself. There's no way you can solve this stuff. And so he will explain. He's like, I figured it out. And then he just has this ridiculous way of like, well, if you didn't know, that tea is actually not hibiscus tea. It's like, you didn't mention the tea once this entire episode. How are we supposed to pick up on it? And he just has this ridiculous explanation. But it's great. It's fun. It's so much
called
fun.
Detective Conan, not Detective. You can solve it also.
No, you can't solve it as well. But it's good. It's mostly mystery of the week, but then there's this like overarching story that is there in the background as well. So go check out Detective Conan. It's fun stuff. Okay, Melissa.
Yes.
Are you ready for me to make my pitches? My
first
ones
pitches
of
of a new
2020.
decade. What are we doing? How are we going to ring it in?
Okay, I have a comic and 2 movies.
Okay.
I'll start with the comic. I want to read volumes 1 and 2 of The Death-Defying Dr. Mirage. This is published by Valiant Comics, which would be the second comic we have read in the Valiant universe for this show. We read Quantum and Woody volumes 1 and 2 this past year. You guys can go check that out. But the Death-Defying Dr. Mirage. Death was just the beginning. Dr. Mirage talks to the dead, but the only spirit Shan Fong can't find is that of her late husband. Instead, America's favorite semi-retired paranormal investigator is haunted and raw, using her gift to solve homicides and bring peace to the recently bereaved. But when a big-time occultist with a classified military past hires her for a specific job, Shan discovers a lead that might close the greatest mystery she's ever tackled: how to get her husband back. That's pitch number 1. It is written by Jen Van Meter, who has worked on Hopeless Savages and Captain Marvel, and the artist is Roberto De La Torre, who's worked on Daredevil and Age of Apocalypse. That's pitch number 1.
Okay.
More mystery solving, but this time paranormal.
Do you know if this is on, did you mention, and I wasn't listening, is this on Comixology Unlimited?
It is on Comixology Unlimited. So that's where you guys can find it and go read that. Pitch number 2. I found this on Netflix today. Oh, why did it open up in a whole new window? I didn't want that. Okay. This is a French animated fantasy drama film called I Lost My Body. It is let me see. Let me open this real quick. The reason why I wanted to put this on there is because, come on, where is it? I guess it's not showing here. According to Netflix, this is by one of the creators of Amelie.
Oh, okay.
Which I have not seen, but I know that that's a very well-loved film. So let's see. This premiered in the International Critics Week section at the 2009 Cannes Film Festival, where it won the Nespresso Grand Prize, becoming the first animated film.
The Nespresso Grand Prize!
Yep. Becoming the first animated film to do so in the section's history. Okay, they don't have a summary, so I'll read part of the plot here. It says, a severed hand.
What?
Escapes the lab it is being held in and begins a harrowing journey back to its body, belonging to a young man, Naufel. As a boy, Naufel aspired to be a pianist and an astronaut, and enjoyed recording his day-to-day life on a tape recorder. After he
play
loses
piano on
both
the
of his
moon.
parents in a car accident, he is forced to live with his emotionally distant uncle and his crude cousin. Now, as an adult, Phil skates by as a pizza delivery man, though he is criticized by his boss for constantly being late. Yeah, it had a really interesting art style. Very stylized, almost looked like it was rotoscoped, but it's not. But yeah, then it was like it's by one of the creators of Amelie, and it's about
I
a
see.
severed hand. And I was like, this sounds weird, and I like it. So that's pitch number 2. Directed by Jeremy Clappin. That might be the guy, but his Wikipedia page is not filled out. That is pitch number 2, and then pitch number 3 is a Golden Globe winner
Oh.
for 2020, Missing Link. It's an animated film starring Hugh Jackman, Zoe Saldana, and Zach Galifianakis. I just messed up his last name, Zach Galifianakis.
Starring Robert Redford.
There you go. Yeah, right. That meme there is great. So let's see. The film also won the Golden Globe for Best Animated Feature Film, making it the first non-computer animated film to win this category, and the first non-CGI film to win a Golden Globe since Waltz with Bashir. 2008 Israeli animated war documentary? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
In 1886, Sir Lionel Frost, a struggling inventor of mythical creatures, has continuously searched for different creatures to study and announce their presence in the world, which would allow him to be accepted into the Society of Great Men, which is led by Sir Lionel's rival, Lord Pigot Dunsby. What a name, man. What a name. Lionel receives a letter acknowledging the presence of a Sasquatch, making a deal with his rival that would allow him to join the society if he proved that the creature was real.
Kyle, you know what movie I just watched in my spare time?
What's that?
Around the World in 80 Days, starring Steve Coogan and Jackie Chan.
Okay.
I went to
go see that film in theaters when it came out.
Me and Jack watched it because it seemed like an alternate Mirrorverse from the Night at the Museum films, which we love.
Uh-huh.
I don't have time to go into this, but I just watched a Victorian-era children's action fun fantasy film where a man has to do something wild to get into a society. I just did this.
But this is an American stop-motion animated film by Studio Leica.
Studio Leica, who did Paranorman, which we lost. We did not lose it. We watched it. We watched it. It should not be lost to the world. We watched it for Halloween last year. It is really good. It is a personal favorite of mine.
They do.
So I am curious about what Studio Leica is up to.
So pitch number 1 was the death-defying Dr. Mirage. Pitch number 2 was the French film I Lost My Body. And pitch number 3, Missing Link. Golden Globe winner, Best Animated Feature Film.
I'm intrigued by all of these, but I'm actually going to go with the death-defying Dr. Mirage.
Okay.
Like, I Googled it, and, like, that artwork seems kind of familiar. Like, I think I've seen this in a comic book store before. And I did really like Quantum and Woody when we read that last year. And I know all the Valiant titles are also in some sort of shared universe.
Yes.
And that's on the opposite end of the tonal spectrum, it seems like, from this title. So I'm curious if there's any at all connection between the two.
Who knows? Yeah.
And just like a lady who can talk to ghosts, but she can't talk to her own dead husband. Oh, that's rough, but in a way that I like.
It is rough. Yeah, for those of you guys who don't know, just a real quick thing on Valiant Comics. They are a comics publisher similar to Marvel and DC in the sense that they focus on superhero comics and they have a shared universe. So all of the comics published by Valiant take place in the same world. They're all connected and stuff like that, but some of them are maybe a little more on the fringes, but it's also a much smaller, more manageable universe. So if you're like, I don't know where to start with Marvel because there's so many characters, I just don't know what to do. Valiant only publishes like 8 books a month, which as opposed to like Marvel and DC, which do like 60 books a month. Ish. So yeah, this is a lot more manageable of like, you can read this, and if you want, you can read the entire universe and you won't be overwhelmed. Or you can just pick one. Pick Death Defying Dr. Mirage and stick with that one.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so those are both on Comixology Unlimited, and that's what we will pick up for this next week. Melissa, where can the people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit. That's WILKYWIT. If you are curious, my old Tumblr, I don't do anything on it anymore, but it still exists. So that URL is your least sassy friend. So if you also want to go look at my old Sherlock tag that I would update when I was in college, you can be there.
There you go. I am at Yo Kyle Springer on Twitter and Instagram. I finally made a couple posts on Instagram, which is like the first time in months. So you guys should go follow me there. If you guys want to keep up to date with our shows, we are at the Whatnauts on Twitter. And again, go check out our website because we got a bunch of cool stuff on our website, including a store, thewhatnauts.com/store. You guys can go buy some Whatnauts merch. Check it out.
Yes.
That being said, let's get out of here. We will see you guys next time for episode 90. This has been episode 89. Adios.
Bye.
Thank you guys for checking out that episode. We hope you enjoyed it. You guys know what to do at these end things. I don't know why YouTube makes us do these end things. Supposedly it helps out. Who knows? In the meantime, go subscribe to our channel up there. Go watch one of our other videos down here. We got a whole bunch of other podcasts. Hey, look, I was hitting the mic. I was looking at that, not the camera like I should be. I'm all messed up. Happy New Year's. Welcome to 2020, you cyberpunks.